What's up, everybody? I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever, not Seahawks. My goodness, what a slip of the tongue. Let's not do that. Good to see you. Wasn't able to check in with you last night, and so I'm going to kind of take the opportunity tonight to recap what I saw the last 2 days at training camp, including today, just further signs of what I think is the starting offensive line for your Seattle Seahawks. I'm 80% sure, but I think I'm like 95% sure. And I think I'm 100% sure about the right guard spot. Much to many of your chagrin, I'm sure, but let's talk about it. Some other stuff too. We're going to talk some linebackers, some pass catchers, quarterbacks, coaches, a little bit of everything. Coming up next on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
It sure does seem like Anthony Bradford is set to be your starting right guard. You can see Christian Haynes standing in the background there watching Bradford work today. Haynes, it looks like he's back fully healthy. He was going 100%. That pec seems to be okay now, even though you can see that it's wrapped up and protected there. He's still working with the second team, primarily at right guard, still working in at center from time to time as well. But Bradford's been the guy for the last couple of weeks. Even before Haynes got hurt, it seemed like that rotation had shrunk a little bit. Also against Kansas City, I would expect Jaylen Sundell to be the starting center. Olu Oluwatimi still nursing a sore back. Mike McDonald says both those spots are still up for competition, but that's been a consistent message of his all the way through. The good news today for the second day in a row, Charles Cross out there again. You can see that right hand. You can see the wrap on it. He's not doing any of the 11-on-11 full team stuff, but he is going through the individual drills and the positional stuff, as you can see there. So really good news from there. Welcome to the show. I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up. And if you want notification of any time I post new content on YouTube, you can hit that bell button. Also, check out the Substack if you prefer the written word. It is free until the regular season starts. If you prefer audio podcasts, I'm on all the platforms. Be sure to subscribe or follow there. And if you really like what I do, leave a rating or a review. And the other ways you can support me as an independent full-time content creator are listed and linked down below in the description on YouTube. Also, check out the Patreon as well. There's some exclusive stuff that's posted there throughout training camp and the regular season. So yeah, it just feels like it's Bradford. Look, we've talked about this ad nauseum for a long time, and I know that everyone is dug in on their positions, and it's disappointing. You want a guy, you want it to be obvious. You want someone to step forward and be Graze-able on the right side, right? And that very well may happen. Man, coaching and scheme matters. And I just think last year, you kind of have to throw it out. Like, it just didn't do any of these offensive linemen any favors. I think you can make an argument that none of them took a step forward in their careers because they just weren't taught well. They weren't developed. They weren't coached. I think it was a stagnant year for them. They all have upside. Remember when Anthony Bradford was drafted out of LSU in the 4th round? He was showing up on a lot of lists coming out of that draft as like, wow, the Seahawks got some real great value here. What a steal. This guy's an elite athlete for his size. He could really be something. That's a heck of a value in the 4th round, right? Someone is going to established themselves there. And this is an important point I want to make. Just because it appears to be Anthony Bradford week 1 of 2025 doesn't mean it's going to continue to be. He's going to have to play well. If he doesn't, they will make a change. And if you don't believe me, let's just go back to last year with the inside linebackers, right? And we're going to talk about them in a second too. Their 2 most prominent free agents they brought in the offseason to cover those spots were gone by midseason because they weren't playing well enough. There's options there. Lamea has worked in as high as the second team at both left and right guard. Jaylen Sundell, who can't really be in that competition at the moment because he has to man center as long as Oluwatimi is out. And by the way, Mike McDonald says he's close. He's close to coming back. There's a chance, even since the game is on Friday, that maybe Oluwatimi would get better in time to play in that game, although I think they would just hold him out and wait for the joint practices or the joint practice the next week against Green Bay, because that's the day that McDonald really has his eye on to let his starters go full speed, and then they're going to shut those guys down for the rest of the preseason. So that's when we'll get our final answer. But he did say yesterday after practice that he wants to see one more game before making that decision. I think we can all interpret that to mean he'll make his decision after that game, and that's the line that we'll see get out there as a first-team unit against Green Bay. I don't expect Charles Cross to be ready for that. I think they're going to be really, really cautious with him. I think he'll continue doing what he's been doing, working through the positional stuff and the individual drills before they throw him out there. Go Cougs. Hank, I can see you down there. I like it. Love all the questions we're seeing already. Let me do this as well. Because I went out there today with an intention of watching the inside linebackers. Just for an update, Ernest Jones not with the team right now. Back home again. They're having the funeral services for his father who passed away last week. And Tyrese Knight still nursing the knee injury. The good news is it's not anything significant. The imaging didn't turn up anything serious there. Mike McDonald told us yesterday after practice they expect him to be ready by week 1. But he's also got another quote-unquote medical issue that's not related to the knee that they're also kind of nursing him through at the minute. But it doesn't sound significant enough. So he's going to be in there. So I thought, okay, I'm going to focus today on Drake Thomas and Patrick O'Connell. Those are the 2 guys who are up next, right? I mean, right off the bat, you can see Mike McDonald. That's where his focus was on at the beginning of practice. He was watching his inside linebackers. And there's Thomas and O'Connell. And there's things I like about both of them. Like O'Connell was a tackling machine in preseason last year. I've seen some really good coverage reps out of him this camp, including some stuff from both these guys, actually, 20, 25 yards downfield. And Thomas is a guy that I liked so much when we kind of sniped him off the Raiders roster when they tried to pass him through to the practice squad at the cut to 53 last year. But also have a special place in my heart for him because the video I did reacting to that move is to this day the most viewed video in Seahawks Forever history. I love how he stacks and sheds. You can kind of see some of it in these drills. Like he locks his arms out, he gets his hands on you, and he controls you, and he sets his base. He's really good with his leverage. He runs better than you would think he does, kind of based on, if you see him for the first time, kind of that stocky build. I like Drake Thomas, and I think he's an adequate Mike linebacker if anything should ever happen to Ernest Jones. But here's what happened when the bullets started flying and they started going 1s against 1s and 11 on 11 today, is Patrick O'Connell was not out there. It was Drake Thomas and it was Nick Emenwari playing weak side linebacker. Now, this is something that Greg Bell told us, gosh, as far back, I think he was on the show about 6 weeks ago now. And he told us that Emenwari was working at weak side linebacker during OTAs. And because of that piece of information, any of you who have seen my 2 53-man roster projections that I've done, one, kind of during the OTA season, excuse me, and then one after the first week of camp after I got C3 practices, I only keep 3 inside linebackers, 3 true inside linebackers on this roster for a couple of reasons. You have to borrow a couple of spots, right? You need to make a spot for a third quarterback and for a fullback. That's new. That's different. And I thought this was an opportunity to do that because you're never going to really use a fourth inside linebacker, because not only can Nick Emmanwori play that spot, especially when they get into some nickel and dime stuff. Matty Brown hopped in on one of my tweets today and reminded us of that. But D'Anthony Bell can also play that role. He's 6'1", 210, and he's played that sometimes as well. He's very comfortable doing it, and he's had a really good camp too. So keep that in mind. They're just with the sub packages, you're just not going to need two true kind of off-ball stack and shed type linebackers at any given time. Also, Josh Ross is going to be back relatively soon, it sounds like. And while we think of him as a special teams player, he has some experience with Mike McDonald in his past playing some linebacker too. And so they seem encouraged about his impending return at all. So I'm really not that concerned about the inside linebacker spot right now, especially because it doesn't sound like Knight's it just sounds like a minor injury, and that he will be back and ready to go full speed by week one. And we know that Ernest Jones will be back and that he's been out there healthy. He's over the knee cleanup he had at the beginning of the offseason as well. Those guys will be running around doing their thing. I thought yesterday and today were sort of a tale of two extremes. Yesterday I thought was one of the most one-sided practices I'd seen. And today was very, very balanced. I called it a draw in the, if you're a member on YouTube or on Patreon, you saw the piece that I did hopping on with Corbin Smith, a little hit that we did for his Emerald City Spectrum site. Yesterday, dominated by the pass catchers, the playmakers, and also the quarterbacks. No interceptions on Saturday. All three quarterbacks incredibly sharp. Maybe the best day I'd seen Sam Darnold have. And it was Cooper Kupp making catches left and right. Elijah Arroyo one-handing things. The Seahawks finally got one of those catches up on their social media sites today. And if you've seen that, what was cool about that is I was on the back side of that play, so it was going away from me. And it just looked like one of those where it was out, it was overthrown, it was too far out in front of him. And so he just kind of waved at it, like just trying to knock it down. I don't know. And it just stuck to his hand. He made it into a one-handed catch, coming right at the Seahawks media team and their cameraman out there. So check that out on the socials if you haven't seen that yet. JSN was doing his thing all over the place. The quarterbacks were slicing and dicing yesterday. Today was much more balanced. Like we've seen a number of times during camp, the pendulum swing back and forth where the offense has a good day and then the defense responds, comes out the next day. Today, it was all kind of intertwined. The offense would win one period, the defense would snap back and win another one early, much to the delight of the folks on the berm today, because it was a public practice. Only one of those left. I think it's Tuesday is the last time we're going to have fans on the berm. We started out with some one-on-ones, wide receivers and tight ends against corners and safeties. And it was a big win for the offense. It usually is. It's such an advantage when you're going one-on-one to the receiver. But I'll tell you what stood out to me in particular in that session, and we can get into this a little bit more if you want to a little later. Marquez Valdez-Scantling might have had his best practice that I've seen today. He was unguardable in those one-on-ones at creating separation. Like, he has this reputation as a guy that takes the top off and goes deep. He's not just a go ball guy. He's not just a 9 route runner. He was creating some serious separation on some of his short and intermediate routes with his body control, his lean, his ability to cut, and catching the ball cleanly. I know he had a reputation earlier in his career as a guy that would drop some balls. I haven't seen that so far in camp. So he had his best day, but I don't know if it matters. I think his roster status as we sit here today is the most mysterious situation on the roster, because they signed him for a reason. They wanted that veteran presence. They wanted the experience that came along with being in Clint Kubiak's system for the last half of the season in New Orleans last year when he went off. I think he had 5 touchdowns in 4 games, something like that. But his camp has gone on. You know, we all know the story. Torrey Horton every day just takes another step as a rookie, and he's now kind of leapfrogged both Jake Bobo and MVS in how he's used and how I think he's going to be used. But there's a financial component to this. if they cut Marquez Valdez-Scantling tomorrow or on the 53, whatever, but just for the sake of argument, it's a $3 million cap hit. They've already paid out $1.5 million, but there's $3 million in guarantees. They would only save, or they wouldn't save. The word doesn't really apply here. They would get back $1 million. So they get a 25% return financially on releasing him. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This one, I think, is pretty simple. It's going to come down not to who the 5 best receivers are, maybe 6. It's going to come down to who they feel comfortable exposing to waivers. And as a veteran with that contract, because remember, if for a team to claim, I think sometimes we go a little too far in worrying about guys getting claimed. Only about 20% of players at this cut do get claimed. But you have to put them on the 53-man roster. You can't claim a player and stash them on your own practice squad. You have to put them on your 53, and you assume the contract. And so maybe MVS does get cut, knowing that no team is probably going to claim him and take on the $4 million. Or the $2.5 million, I guess it would be, because the Seahawks have already paid him 1.5. And then they can bring him back, maybe even after week 1, because there's something that happens that I've never 100% understood, because you're already cutting a guy. But if you bring him back after week 1, they would do this with Artie Burns, and they've done this with others in the past. The salary's not fully guaranteed if he's on the roster, if he makes the 53 and then he's on the roster week 1. So you could do that. You could bring him back. He could be one of your veteran exceptions on the practice squad. Or they might keep him on the 53 because they feel like the young guys can go through. Like maybe they feel like Derek Young can make it through because he's in the last year of his rookie deal. So it's a little bit of a higher salary, year 4, even though he's a 7th round pick. Guys like Ricky White that were a 7th round pick anyway, hasn't really had an outstanding camp. There's things I like about him. Maybe they feel comfortable moving him through to the practice squad. There's a lot of receivers out there. And, at the cut down, the market's flooded even more. And so I feel pretty good about a guy like Ricky White making it through the practice squad. So fascinated to see. Also keep this in mind. They gave him the starter's treatment on Thursday. He was one of the guys that didn't play. That says something. Now, I don't know. So there's only been 3 practices I haven't attended. And I don't know if any of you know, you can tell me. I was just on the Seahawks Press Pass YouTube site earlier today, and I didn't see it, but I could have missed it. If he has spoken to the media after a practice yet. They don't typically let guys do that they don't think have a shot to make the team. There's a good example of that I think will tell us something about a roster spot here coming up in a second too. In fact, let's get to that, and then we'll get to some questions and some give and take. I thought I would string together the answers to the questions that I asked today at camp, just because why not? Right. I mean, that's part of the advantage of access, right? Is I get to take pictures of what I think is important, talk about what I think I see that's important, and ask questions that are on my mind. Now I know I see it in the comments on the Seahawks Press Pass YouTube site. I get it about the mics, all of us not being mic'd properly. And so what I tried to do when I edited this together is I tried to boost the audio on my question a little bit. So it's still going to sound like, there's a little bit of hum or whatever, because I'm boosting it up, right? You're going to get the ambient noise, but these are all the guys that talked today. And I asked them all at least one question, and I thought some of this stuff was interesting. So let's do it.
Hey, Coach, is it disappointing camp where you had to do some things as a coaching staff to guard against fatigue? Because it felt like there was a little extra intensity from coaches out there.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much.
I like hearing that. It's pretty cool. No, our guys are awesome. I mean, we understand. What's cool is like as a team, we know what we're trying to achieve. As individuals, as like position units, everyone's kind of pushing their their goals and have their room too. All three phases are. In the middle of trying to figure out who we're going to be, who's going to play what. So there's a lot of great battles, and our coaches are bringing a lot of energy every day. I mean, there's always something at stake. Any opportunity you have to come out here and be with our guys. I mean, it's just, especially in this setting, it's just, I mean, how can you not be fired up by that?
A little different scheme to come back to. How do you feel about Mike McDonald's team so far?
I love it. It still gives me a chance to be aggressive. I know a lot of things that I'm good at is putting hands on, get a chance to, press up. I love the change up part about it too as well. Get a chance to get a little bit more aggressive. I think the best thing about it, he gives everybody a chance to do what they do best. Is off coverage or press coverage. Everybody got a position where they can make the best plays for themselves.
Eric, what do you see as your role on the team?
I think, I've been a lot of places where the role is kind of similar, but really like accepting like a veteran presence in the tight end room and, role model, leadership role for them. And then on top of that, contributing in any way I can, whether it be in the run game, pass game, special teams. It's like, just being really versatile and open to any role that is given me.
What stands out to you about John Benton and his coaching staff and how they're coaching you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I kind of hit on it was just how precise the system is. Like I said, there's a rule for every situation possible. You should know exactly what you're going to get. If the whole playbook's in, like it is in camp, and we get any type of defense that they could throw at us, we have a rule for everything. It's very precise. Yeah.
There was a big Bison contingent on Thursday. Was it bittersweet seeing Cam Miller get us on that double move?
I mean, we're Seahawks, so no.
Man, you talked about the system, maybe.
But I was happy for him. I'll add that. I was happy for him.
Just for the record.
Yeah.
I just say that.
Sorry about that. I got a message from Bryce Coots. How's it going, Bryce? That I had a little echo. Forgot to turn on echo cancellation, which I don't need for a solo show, and it dampens down my background music. But whenever I play external audio, I gotta click that on. So hopefully the second half of that got better when I clicked on echo cancellation. So sorry about that. Eric Saubert was a really interesting dude. He's a guy that I would really like to interview one-on-one when I get the opportunity. He was first guy I've ever seen walk out there and introduce himself like he was ready to go. He was excited to be there. He's been a role player in his life. He doesn't get an opportunity all that often to be interviewed. You could feel the energy from Shaq, and it's really good to have him back. I was worried, he showed up day one, but didn't participate because of a personal thing. He was there day two, didn't really do anything, and then he was gone for a while. And then he came back late last week, but we didn't see him in Football Fest or certainly in the game. And yesterday was the first time we saw reps from him. In fact, McDonald joked after the game that he snuck a couple of extra reps in there during one period because he's just trying to get up to speed. But there was a question, the longer he was away, like, is this guy going to make the team or not? I'm glad he's back for a couple of reasons. One is after that fourth spot, once you get past Nehemiah Pritchett, who's had a good camp, Josh Job's had a good camp. Job, by the way, I don't think I mentioned it in my little update from the sideline yesterday, and that was a miss on my part. Josh Job had an outstanding day yesterday. He had 5 pass breakups by Corbin Smith's count. I saw 3 or 4 of them live, and they were terrific. Like, he was so sticky in coverage yesterday. He's having a really solid camp. One of my favorite things to watch in football, all of sports really, but is watching a guy that doesn't hit right away and doesn't necessarily have everything come easy to him, work his way up and make something of himself. And Josh Job, I think he could be on the Seahawks have a decision to make with Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon as far as how much to open the vault after this season. Josh Job's on a 1-year deal too, so that's going to be a big storyline next year, right? Is what to do about that cornerback room. And then Pritchett's had a really solid camp as well, and the coaches really like him. But I think there was thought when they signed Shaq that he might compete with Job for that third cornerback spot. I think at this point, he's competing with Pritchett for the 4th guy, rotational depth. Very similar to the role he played in Minnesota last year when he played really well. The other reason I like having him back is just the energy he brings, the juice. He's such a good dude. And to hear him, he talked a lot today. I encourage you to check it out on the Seahawks YouTube page. He talked a lot today about not only the changes in his life. He's engaged now. He has 3 young kids, 5 and under, including a brand new baby. But he talked about, like, it's really hit him both off the field and on in the last year or two, like, oh, I'm the old guy now, and I have to pass things down to the younger guys. But loved what he had to say about the scheme fit, and he did make it sound like during that offseason when, he came in for his visit before the draft, and then we didn't really hear anything for a while, and they didn't sign him until June, right? Late June. Or was it early July? That it sounded like it was kind of agreed upon and it was a done deal. He just had stuff he had to take care of. He had a new baby. He just wanted to focus on that. But he's a guy that can still play. I think he had his best year as a run defender last year. That obviously is something that means a lot to Mike McDonald. And it's just not the same. The expectations aren't going to be the same as they were when he was drafted by us, right? What was the thing that frustrated us the most about Shaq? He would always be in position to make a play, but his ball skills just weren't there. The ball production wasn't great. I think he provides exceptional veteran depth and a guy that you absolutely want to have in your locker room. It doesn't matter if he's cornerback 1 or cornerback 5. He's going to give you the same effort, same intensity, same positivity. And he also said, by the way, his brother's doing great. And he was happy that somebody asked him about how Shaquem's doing. He's a motivational speaker now. What a shocker, right? For his twin brother. But Saubert was cool. Sundell didn't seem like talking to the media is his favorite thing. Man, a few words. Shame on me for asking a yes or no question. I should know better. But it's an unfamiliarity thing too. Sometimes you can get away with a yes or no question because you know that the player or coach is just going to kind of take it and run with it, right? But I like how he came back and gave his buddy, his old quarterback at NDSU, Cam Miller, some props because that was a hell of a play on Thursday night. All right, let me see. Let me get to starred comments first. Hey, look, I'm late enough on a live feed that I can get Shane in here. Shane, always good to see you. Thank you. Really enjoyed the game. Finally, an offensive scheme. That was the overwhelming feeling that I had Thursday. And the guys that were sitting behind me that we got to talking and spent the game kind of chopping it up. Tyler and his buddies. That it looks different and it feels different. And it's the thing I've appreciated the most about being able to go to practice every day is you get to feel it every day and the consistency of it and not just relying on the bits and pieces, of what other people are bringing to us. And being out there every day, it's a well-oiled machine. The way this coaching staff knows each other and knows the scheme, there was no learning curve for them. They were able to hit the ground running and teach this scheme. Sundell talked a lot today about the intricacies, the precision of this scheme, which means a lot of teaching and a lot of precise teaching. And that's what I've had the most fun watching. We can't show it. Oh, I did bring this. I wanted to show you an example here. So we cannot capture any moments of coaching, right? Even if it's just a basic technique, make sure your hand's here. It's just it's a competitive thing. It's on it. So this is what they gave us. These are all the rules about what we can and can't show, do, talk about. But trust me when I say when I'm on the sideline, like especially watching Justin Outen or John Benton coach these guys, they're not afraid to get really basic, like football one-on-one stuff. And I think that's phenomenal coaching technique. Because if you start to assume that you don't have to coach certain aspects of the scheme or of technique because, well, these guys, that guy played in the SEC and that guy played in the Big Ten and that guy was an All-American. They should know this stuff, right? You start to assume that's where you make mistakes. I just think the teaching didn't happen last year. And that's why these guys didn't take a step forward. Plus the cohesion of just where to be, how to get leverage, how to execute this scheme, and that they're constantly refining it, right? Every single play. Nope, your hand could have been here. You could have taken you could have been a foot farther this way. Like, the intricacies are really, really exciting. These guys know what they're doing. And I think the players are starting to show it and feel it. And I'll say this again about that right guard spot, right? I've said it 3 or 4 times now. I'm going to keep saying it. Maybe as much to convince myself as you guys. How often do you see an offensive line in this league where you have 5 Pro Bowlers or 5 All-Pros? It doesn't happen. You always have a player or 2 that are weaker than the others. And the example that I would use, and I said this to Corbin today, so I apologize to my paid members if they've heard this already. You look at that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. It was so dominant and so integral to their championship run last year. And some of you wanted to sign Mekhi Becton. I was not on that train. I thought he put some terrible reps on tape and looked really bad at times. But he played between Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson, who unfortunately got carted off today, by the way. Side note, knock on wood, hope he's okay. Never like to see players injured seriously in this league. That's going to make a lot of guys look good. And so, I feel good about Oluwatimi at center, or if it ultimately ends up being Jaylen Sundell, and then a healthy Abe Lucas at right tackle, who McDonald was raving about after practice yesterday. And there's a chance. And I've seen some better things from him. Drew Lock's first drop back against the Raiders starters, who includes a guy named Max Crosby, who's pretty good. He had 4 seconds to throw the football. And that was with Anthony Bradford on the field. And it's the pass pro that has concerned me the most in the past. But also, this offense is predicated on timing and getting the ball out quick. And from what I've seen this last week, it feels like the light really went on and they dialed it in. I have seen the number of reps that I've seen in the last week, let's say, in practice, that where I feel like the quarterback held the ball too long, I can count on one hand. The ball is coming out incredibly quick, especially when Sam Darnold's the guy under center. That's going to make any offensive line better. But also keep this in mind too. I'm never afraid. If those of you who, to this day, and there's probably some of it in the comments right now, but I don't have them up. I just have the stars up. There are some of you that still, every single time I do a show, you come on, you go, they still need to acquire right guard, trade for right guard, trade for right guard, trade for right guard. First of all, there's none available. Not that are any good. Second of all, if the right guard performance isn't good enough from Anthony Bradford, from Christian Haynes, from Jaylen Sundell, from Seattle Seahawks, from Bryce Cabledew, from Mason Richmond, Josh Jones, from whoever, they will go get someone when they can. We've seen it before. It's going to happen. If that ends up being the only weak link on that offensive line that's holding him back, they'll fix it. And then y'all can come to me and say, see, Dan, we were right. There wasn't a guy on the roster that was good enough to play that spot. But until that happens, I think that guy is on the roster. Maybe it's not Anthony Bradford, but maybe it is. And those of you that have been telling me since I tweeted it earlier today that he's garbage and that he can't play, have you played in the NFL? You don't know that yet because we haven't seen it coached properly. We haven't seen him coached properly. We haven't seen him put in a scheme that's built to make life easier for offensive linemen. We haven't seen it. Until we do, and he fails at that, then let's hold off. Also, just a little side note. One guy replied to a tweet of mine and called him Fatford, and guess what happened to him? Got blocked. Be an adult. That's all I ever ask. Bryce, always good to see you. Thank you for the super chat. So happy I was able to get the night off to catch this episode. Me too. It's the whole reason I did it. When you told me you had the night off, I was like, well, I might as well do a show then. How did Cabledew look on the second team at left guard? I don't know. Because I wasn't, whenever he was in there, I heard about him playing left guard afterwards. My eyes were always somewhere else. So I apologize. I didn't get to see him there. did seem last week, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit, that Mason Richmond kind of seemed to move ahead of him. That they had Richmond playing some tackle, some guard. Even as I reported yesterday, he's been doing some individual work, snapping the football. Maybe that's in his future as well. They've been doing the same thing with Cable do. That group is hard to figure out. I'd like to think one of the two makes the roster. We saw what they did last year with the rookies, with the 3 guys, keeping extra offensive linemen. They kept 11 last year on the cut to 53, which they did not need, but they just were afraid of losing those guys and they wanted to protect them. I don't know if they can afford to do that this year and keep them both unless they show something in the next 2 weeks, and they're going to get their opportunities, right? They're going to get run against Kansas City. And then there's certainly, that might be one of the spotlight battles that we see in the Green Bay game, because all the starters are going to go in the joint practice. And then we're going to see, those last few roster battles. So we might see a whole lot of, here's what I would expect to see. And a lot can change in the next 2 weeks. In that Green Bay game, we might see a lot of Christian Haynes at center and a lot of Cable do and a lot of Richmond. Because you got to find out what you have in those guys and where they stand relative to, trying to get them through to the practice squad. Hopefully. All right, I got the echo thing situation figured out, I think. Shane, again, thank you, buddy. You think they played Abe in the hope to assess him for an extension? Cheers, Dan, got to run. All right, have a good night, man. Good to see you. I hadn't thought of that. I thought it was interesting that he was out there. I took it in the moment as, look, he missed most of a season and a half. And now this is the first time he's coming off a healthy offseason. Let's get him some reps and get him up to speed. The tackle rotation was interesting on Thursday because we saw a whole lot more of Kite than Jarrell, too. I think Jarrell played less than 10 snaps. They could be trying to hide him, keep him off tape because they really like him and they don't want him to get claimed. There's a lot of stuff that goes into these decisions on who to play and where to play him in these preseason games these days, because there's just the one cut. You don't have a chance. When you used to have the multiple cuts, you could adjust your roster as you went, right? I can't remember the levels now, but you'd cut to like 80, I think was the first one. And so that meant that, what's 15 times 30? It's like 400 or 500 players would then also become available. So you take your 15 away, and then it's like playing Go Fish. But then you have an opportunity to go out and go, oh, hey, we liked that guy in the draft. Let's get him in here for 2-3 weeks and see what we have him. You don't get to do that now. And so it's a much different process trying to figure out who these guys are, how much you value them, and who you might have to protect because they might be, you might be at risk if you put them on the waiver wire. So yeah, it's a whole lot different now than it used to be. That is for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Brian says not every third rounder steps in and becomes a starter. Patience. I'm glad you made that point. Just because if Christian Haynes doesn't win one of the jobs this year, and it sure doesn't look like he will now, I mean, crazier things could happen. McDonald still says it's a competition. Haynes could go out and have his best 2 practices that he's ever had the next couple of days, because that's a big part of this. And then he could go out and have a great game against Kansas City and put a lot of good reps on tape, and then they might give him the start against Green. It still could happen, but I think time's running out, and it seems unlikely. It really does. I would say I'm 90% that Anthony Bradford is your starting right guard. Now, I don't know if I made this clear enough earlier either. I'm still about 90% that Olu Oluwatimi is going to be the starting center as well, provided he does come back and he's healthy in a couple of days. But that could change too. We know how much they like Sundell. They've been moving him around a lot, trying to find a spot for him. And then as I was getting ready today, I saw that I still had this clip available. And so let me take this comment out of the way. I'm going to play this again. This was Greg Bell about 6 weeks ago when I asked him then if who was going to start.
I think Jaylen Sundell is going to be the starter at center, and they're going to have 2 North Dakota State guys side by side on the offensive line.
Do you say that because as he's gone through OTAs, have his reps increased?
it was flipped where Oluwatimi started the OTAs at the first center and then would split roughly evenly with Sindel. By mini camps, it was flipped where Sindel was the first and then basically Oluwatimi splitting with him. I rarely have heard, Dan, in my 20 plus years of doing this, coaches and GMs and personnel and scouts go on and on about a second year undrafted rookie like they did Jaylen Sindel this offseason. Unsolicited, I was hearing, man, this new system really fits Jaylen Sindel. Man, he moves really well. He's played all the positions. He can really work in this outside zone. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. He didn't even play. He barely played at all last year and was at 2 or 3 positions. You would have thought he was like Dave Remington or Mike Webster, the way they were talking about how the center is perfectly fit for this system.
That was then. This is now. I think Oluwatimi's in the lead there. I want to address something. If you want to come into my channel and be kind of a dick, fine. If you have a good point. Great. Darnold will be sacked 35 times off the right side this year. Can you show me your coaching resume? Can you show me your NFL playing resume? You don't know that. You don't. What I've seen in practice every single day, Sam Darnold's not getting sacked. And he's going against a top 5 defense in the NFL. Every day. He's not getting sacked with Anthony Bradford playing right guard. So there you go. And then apparently I like to ramble a lot. Maybe get a thesaurus. It's not called rambling. It's called analysis. If you don't like it, there's a lot of other channels you can check out. What do we got? Let's go back to John McGrath, a guy who's thoughtful and smart and likes to think outside the box and consider things from every angle. I don't feel like Haynes is a miss, just might need another year before it finally clicks for him, just like we're seeing right now with Bradford, apparently. It's a great point. Think about the offseason. Think about who so many fans wanted them to sign. Will Fries, who they made a huge push for. Not very good his first couple years in the league. He wasn't. He certainly wasn't a guy that, you know, even through his second year that you would have ever thought was going to be an $80 million player. And then everybody wanted to pivot to Tevin Jenkins. And he was hot garbage for most of his first 3 years in the league and couldn't stay healthy. And that was confirmed by, he ended up signing a 1-year backup deal to go to Cleveland. Some of these guys who become stars and then become big free agents often take a while to get there. And it happens more with linemen than other positions. We've heard these guys who do it. We've heard players talk about it. I heard Marcus Spears a couple months ago talking about, we're not physically mature until we're 25, 26 years old. Now, Haynes was one of those guys that came out of college at 24. And so maybe that doesn't apply to him. And with him, it just seems to be a functional strength thing. Like, some have called him undersized. I think the size is fine. It's about leverage. And that seems to be his issue. It's just getting leverage. You know, I saw some clips from the Rams preseason game of Willie Lampkin playing center. He was the guy that got so much notoriety at the Senior Bowl, measuring in at like 5'10" and 175. And can he play center in the NFL? But he had that wrestling background. He's so good at getting under you and getting leverage. I saw some reps from the Rams game, and he looked great. And now also magically he's 5'11", 290. That happened. So that always helps. Here's Muki. One way to mitigate offensive line weaknesses: play with leads, do things that make life easier for the O-line and quarterback, quick game, play action, moving the pocket, etc. You just also made a list of things that Ryan Grubb didn't do last year. When it was evident that the offensive line was struggling, especially when we were down to Mike Jarrell at right tackle, right? We had gone through, like, Lucas wasn't going to be ready. Fant got hurt right away. Forsyth got hurt when it was terrible and then got hurt. So they had to go to Jarrell. There was no tight end help, no chipping, right? No under center, no play action. He just wanted to run that basically air raid type offense, no matter what. I think he was top 5 rate in the league at leaving tackles on an island. That didn't help. A lot of slow, long developing plays down the field, you know, trying to get the big play. That put Gino at risk and made it harder on the offensive lineman. And so now you combine better talent with a better scheme and a quicker clock, and a quarterback that gets rid of the ball quickly. I think you're going to see a pretty dramatic improvement. I do. If you don't believe it, cool. I understand the cynicism, because we've been talking about this for 8 years. Okay. But just because how can I put this? Doesn't mean it can't ever be fixed. That's just not how life works. Right. I had people tell me this offseason the Mariners would never, ever, 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 ever be good under John Stanton. What's happening now? Right? You just don't know. We think we do, and we try to project. That's part of the fun of what we do. But we don't know. And you have to leave open the possibility that you might be wrong about a player. Right? All of you who fell in love with Geno Smith the last 3 years, how many people were wrong about him his first 8 years in the league? How many people were wrong about Sam Darnold? Right? When DeMarcus Lawrence entered the league, talked about this the other day. He was known as immature and undisciplined. He even called himself childish. And then he became a mentor and a leader and a dog in the locker room that everybody wants on their team. Guys develop. Guys grow as players, as people, physically, psychologically, schematic, X and O wise, right? They get smarter about the game. Kirk Cousins said recently in an interview that he didn't really understand how to process in the NFL till his 4th or 5th season. And he was starting. So, let's just try not to make snap judgments on players their first, second year in the league. Some guys take longer, right? Some guys take longer. There you go, John. Yep. There you go. And here's the other thing. I see this opinion a lot. I don't mean to crap on you, but I do think it's worth responding to. John Benton believes he's good enough to start. John Benton's one of the best offensive line coaches this league has seen in the last 20 years. Tremendous. His resume is this thick. Mike McDonald believes he's the guy to start right now. Justin Outen believes he's the guy to start. Clint Kubiak believes he's the guy to start. I think those guys have a pretty good track record of success. Go back and look at the 8 years that John Benton was the offensive line coach at Houston and the guys he was coaching. Not a lot of all pros. Not a lot of elite athletes. But he got it done with coaching, teaching, technique, system, scheme, execution. Yeah. There you go, Brian. You saw Bradford last year in a terrible system with a 4th string tackle playing next to him. Relax. I am really curious about the tackle situation, though. I really want to see how they use Jarrell this week, or if they do, maybe they are kind of trying to hide him. It's interesting. Flight 266 says, I'll go with Mike M. Yeah. Here's a good one from Jail. Call Walter Jones. He needs to get Haynes to start pushing SUVs. It's funny. I wonder, once you get to his age, that is the thing that concerns me, is how much stronger can you get? Like, you can do all the squats and deadlifts in the world, but if you haven't learned to play with leverage yet, to apply leverage yet, it may just not come naturally, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, what would the analogy be? If a quarterback doesn't learn to throw with anticipation by his 2nd or 3rd year in the league, maybe he can't learn that. Maybe he just doesn't have that instinct, that skill in him, right? I tried really hard for years to be a good guitar player, and I finally realized it wasn't going to happen. Maybe it's not going to happen for Christian Haynes. But if it doesn't, I'm not the only one that's going to be disappointed or surprised. Some of the biggest name analysts and scouts out there thought he was a surefire NFL starter, especially in a wide zone scheme, because that's when he played at Connecticut. And he played it so well. Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder just said recently that they believe the Seahawks in the last 2 drafts got the 2 best zone guards in the entire draft. ZELLE this year and Haynes last year. You know, you're always grading on a curve when it comes to the draft. Every draft class is different. So when you say someone's the best at this or that, it carries different weight. But sometimes players miss. And if he does, there's a lot of people that were wrong. Not just me. A lot of people that know a lot more about football than me that will have to admit that they were wrong as well. Let's see what else we got, guys. AA says, I'll extend an olive branch. Perhaps Bradford, with the help of Kubiak, will morph into something. Guess I shouldn't be so negative. Also thinking about it this way too, right? What if he's just good enough to get by, and so this offense still becomes a much improved unit, a functional unit that, like Muki said earlier, can get leads? We haven't seen that in years. How many years has it been where you get to the stadium and you're all excited and you're pumped, and then we get the ball first and it's 3 and out, and we're playing from behind the whole time? Then you have to throw the football more. You get out of your game plan. I think we're going to see a whole different world now. We're going to get leads. We're going to get on top of teams. We're going to sustain more drives, hold the ball longer. Defense is going to be on the field less, right? But if he's just good enough for that to happen, and if that happens, by the way, this team's a playoff team and can do some damage, then maybe next year you draft another Gray Zabel, right? Or you sign another guy in free agency. One thing that I am sure of, you guys, this organization, this coaching staff, Mike McDonald, everyone on down, John Schneider, everyone on the second floor of that building, or the third floor. I think they're all on the third floor. They won't stand for poor performance. And they're always working to improve. And so if this doesn't work, if this group of guards doesn't produce one guy that looks like a long-term starter, then that'll be a priority next offseason. But in the meantime, I'm telling you, from everything I've seen, even with one guy out of those 5 that you're not sure of, this offense can be really, really good. All right, AA. Agree to disagree. I mean, well, I guess now we do agree. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that mindset. I love debating with people, and it's always like I'm never afraid to admit that I'm wrong. It's not fun. I don't like admitting I'm wrong, but I'm not afraid to. It's very refreshing as well when you're wrong on somebody, right? I thought Ryan Leaf was I thought the Colts were making a mistake taking Manning over Leaf. So I mean, it wasn't just because of this. It wasn't. I mean, watch Ryan Leaf's 1997 season. Watch every pass. Man. If his head, he was Nuke Lelouch, right? From Bull Durham. He was Ebby Calvin Lelouch. Was that his full name? $1 million arm, 10-cent head. Yeah, here goes Brian says he's only played 167 snaps. There is something though where he's just not impressing coaches in practice. And I can't pinpoint it because when I watch him, I see good reps. So, we don't get to see everything that happens. Everything that happens behind closed doors. Peter DeLeon Guerrero. That is an awesome name. I'm jealous of your name. I want 3 names. I don't like my middle name. My middle name, when I hear my middle name, I always know I'm in trouble. Dan, thank you for your time and energy giving us stuff to look out for. Go Hawks. I appreciate that. Yeah, Charlie Unicorn says, if you get 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen playing well and 1 average, vast improvement from 2022-24. Keep this in mind too. Let's say Bradford is the weak link. And over time, you see that he gets beat sometimes by, quicker 3 techniques. I think that would be my biggest concern, right? He tends to lunge. And if he goes up against a guy, a Braden Fisk that just gets by on quickness, and he can get around you. Seahawks play with a fullback now. He's got to get around Robbie Utes too. Not on every play, but a lot of the time. They're going to have more tight end help. They're going to run the football more, which is Bradford's kind of go-to, right? And they're going to get rid of the ball quick. And so you can lose a rep. If it's just one of the 5 that loses a rep, You could survive that. You see that on almost every play, to be honest with you, all around the league. It's when we had a complete dysfunctional line, or at least 4 out of 5 that were dysfunctional at times the last couple of years. When you had 2 guards, when you had Laken Tomlinson doing what he was doing last year, like that was tough too. And then you had the issues at right guard. That was difficult. That was crazy. Am I streaming live games? I can't. I think, do you mean watch parties? So I'm thinking about doing a watch party for the Green Bay game at Fast Fashion Brewery. Matt Storm is out of town right now. He's supposed to come back in a couple of days. We're going to talk about that, so stay tuned, because I think that could be fun. Some of the road games. Well, if I get credentialed, I'm going to try to travel to all of the road games. But if I don't, then streaming parties for the away games can be fun at times. Not every week. I tried doing that for that PSF app with Dana a couple years ago, and it's kind of exhausting, to be honest. But might do it for the Green Bay game. I think that would be some fun. Maybe line up a guest or two and enjoy some of their fine beer, and they're really good pizzas over there too. So we'll be sitting down with those guys this week to talk about a partnership. Yeah, this is tough. Seatown fan makes a good point, and this is another example of how, like, you know, as fans, or even us in the media, like, we don't see behind the curtain. We don't see the wizard at Oz. He says, last thing I'll say about Bradford, people were saying he was in great shape this year, but he looks the same. Yeah, he's reported to have lost about 15 pounds. We just see what we see, and it's hard to tell in a football uniform sometimes. But the Seahawks do, like, they do every physical test you could ever imagine over the offseason, right? And they do body fat scans, body composition scans, all of that testing. For them to say that he's trimmer, he's more fit, he's more lean, that's information that we're not, we don't have the benefit of seeing. So we can only take them at their word. Yeah. Let me see if I got any other starred comments. I don't think so. So let's see. What do we got coming up? Just to give you an idea here. Also, let me ramble for one more second. Is that guy still in here that said I ramble? Whatever. We're going to do a little side note, a little tangent, because right as I was about to go live, I saw someone debating something on Twitter, and they were talking about how they weren't bullish on Darnold because Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings offense can make any quarterback look good, including Sam Howell, who looked like a Hall of Famer yesterday, is what they said. So I dug something up. I had a thought. You ever do this? You think something happened. Maybe this is the Mandela effect. Then you go back and you check the box score of the stats, and you're like, oh, that wasn't as good as I thought. Okay. But let's go back and let's look at Sam Howell's final line. The Vikings 20-10 win over Houston. Sam Howell was, there it is, 11 out of 13. Oh, wow. Hall of Famer, world beater, 11 out of 13 for 105 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. It's 8 yards per completion. That's a lot of check. I don't even need to watch tape. That's a lot of checkoffs and a lot of checkdowns and dump offs. Almost said checkdowns and checkoffs and dump downs. But watch this. Here, let me get this out of here. Remember last year, preseason, week 2, Tennessee? This is from field goals. Shout out Muki. Sam Howell was great, completing 11 out of 14 for 153 yards and a touchdown. The Seahawks scored on their final 3 possessions of the first half, and Howell was a major reason for the success. I just wanted to throw that out there in light of some Shadur Sanders narrative, now some Sam Howell narrative. Take preseason young quarterback performances with a grain of salt. Never forget Mike Teal. If you don't know what that means, I know how old you are. Never forget Mike Teal. Seahawks fan 72. I appreciate this. Hey, Dan, glad to see you again. My day feels off when I don't get a dose of my Seahawks Forever podcast. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I got to take a day off every once in a while, right? But hey, I'm just out here hustling, trying to make this work full time. Let me just give you a little rundown of what the practice schedule looks like so you can know the content coming up. So tomorrow they practice at 1 o'clock. So look for a post-practice rapid reaction report from the sideline at about 5 o'clock or so. And then let's see, wait, what day is this? I can't even remember the day. So we are, Monday. Practice will be over at 3. Then they have the media availability. And so tomorrow I'll come home and do a full reaction here live to what I saw yesterday. Tuesday is the last public practice. That also wraps up at the same time. And then Wednesday is at the same time as well, but we'll be able to attend it as media. Thursday is a morning practice. That's the day before the game. Sometimes the morning practice, the day before a game, what they've been doing this preseason is that'll be a walkthrough period and the media is not allowed. So I may not be able to watch them on Thursday. Doesn't matter anyway, because I'm going to be at White River Amphitheater in Auburn, Washington, my old hometown, seeing Creed for the first time, finally, after waiting for 20 years and having a close call 10 years ago. So I will not be producing any content that night, except my Twitter feed will be littered with live videos of Creed in concert. As well as Mammoth and Daughtry. Really looking forward to that trio. Saturday is a day off, and then Sunday they're back at practice. They leave for Green Bay on Wednesday the 20th. And so essentially any day that they practice, I will either put up a video from the sidelines with my immediate reactions or do a full reaction from here live. Muki says, I don't remember if I told you last week, Dan, but I'm blown away by how much construction is going on in places like Auburn and Kent. As someone who's driven kind of crisscross the nation in the last 5 months, I'm blown away by how much construction is going on everywhere. And in particular, in Seattle, this has been happening for 20 years, Bellevue in Seattle. And it's so frustrating because I just keep telling myself, like, just finish the city. Finish it. It's like the house remodel that will never end. If I was mayor of Seattle, I would put a moratorium on all new construction. I would put a 1-year freeze. I would make them finish everything. And I would just give the people of Seattle 1 year to enjoy the city finished. No construction, no road closures, no cones, no cement barriers you have to worry about slamming up against. And then we can start off again. But I saw that everywhere. My goodness. So much in this country is under construction right now. It's crazy. Crazy. All right. That's going to do it. Guys, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Whoops. Accidentally hit that. Don't know what that means. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Get the tunes. And I'll be back out at practice tomorrow, and I'll tell you what I think of that. Any breaking news, I'll react to that as well. Always checking Twitter first thing in the morning. Said it before. I'm staying on it until he signs with someone else. I think Jadeveon Clowney makes a ton of sense on this team. Didn't talk about it tonight because we've talked about it before. We can get into it tomorrow or the next day. I think it's a timing thing with him. I think he's a guy. It's the Ndamukong Suh plan, right? Where he would tell teams, yeah, I'll sign with you, but I'm not showing up until the last week of camp. I just don't want to go to training camp. It makes too much sense still, and I think it's just a matter of time. So I'm keeping my eye on that, but also anything bigger that might happen. And by the way, I'll end on this. All the ways you can support the show are linked down below in the description. I apologize for my tweet yesterday at the beginning of practice when I saw Mason Richmond snapping the football. I got excited about that. Not because he's going to be the center or even in the conversation this year, but just it's something new. It's something I hadn't seen before. And as reporters, that's what we get excited about. And just, amping up the versatility in a young player like that, a guy that John Benton really liked and kind of pounded the table for in the draft. And so when I wrote the tweet that said, hey, I have something very interesting I just saw, I'll tell you about it after practice. Well, the reason I had to tease it, it's because of this, because of the rules. And then when I did, my Twitter blew up and a bunch of you were pissed off because it wasn't Micah Parsons. I should have known better. I could see why you would think that was something bigger than a third string rookie offensive lineman working in a new position. That's just the kind of nerd I am. I guess I just assume everyone else is at the same level. I apologize. I will not do that again, at least not to that extreme. not with the, I think I used about 9 R's in the very. So my apologies, guys. Forever and always go Hawks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Seahawks Forever. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching and for all the support. I'll see you soon.